Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through of 2 Peter, and I got up to chapter 2, verse 10b. So I finished on 10a last time because there was a full stop, and we continue on with the second half of verse 10. So I've mentioned before, the Greek of this is quite difficult, and you really need to have a commentary with you on this to explain some of the theology and some of the ideas here. I'm just going to translate as we go. So it begins, Tolmetai alphades doxas ou tremusi blasphemuntes. I might just pause it there because there's a long bit next. Tolmetai is first declension masculine noun from tolmetes. Tolmao is a verb meaning to dare, and these are people who dare. Daring ones, literally, perhaps insolent, is some people translate it. Alphades is actually a third declension adjective. It means arrogant or stubborn. So this is insolent ones, stubborn ones. Blasphemuntes, blaspheming, ou tremusi, from tremo, they do not fear, doxas. Now, doxas literally is glories, or it can mean opinions. Apparently here there's a reference, and it's very obscure, the commentators claim there's a reference here to angels, the glorious ones. Even though it's from doxa, glory. So, celestial beings. The same usage occurs in Jude. As I mentioned before, Jude and 2 Peter have a lot of close connections. So, blaspheming, they do not have fear of the, well, perhaps angels, the celestial beings. Hopu angeloi iskui kai duname medzones ontes ou ferusin katauton parakuriou blasphemon. And on the next page it's chrisin is the next word. Hopu meaning where. Some people take it as whereas, but anyway, it literally means where. So perhaps in the situation where angels, ontes, being medzones, superlative, being comparative, being greater, and then iskui, this is from iskus, third declension noun in us, in strength and in power. So where angels being greater in strength and in power, uferusin, well, perhaps do not bear or do not carry, and ferusin kat auton, so do not bring, perhaps might be better for that, do not bring against them from the Lord, from Yahweh. And there's a variant reading here. The variant reading is to take para plus the dative here, kurio, meaning to place beside God, but it is from the genitive, so they do not bring against them from Yahweh, generally kurios without the article is referring to God. And then blasphemon chrisin, literally a blasphemous judgment. So but it could be a judgment for blasphemy, which may fit well with the this repetitive use of blasphemio here. Others translate it as defamatory judgment for chrisin. So just to do that bit again. So where the angels, being greater in strength and power, do not bring against them, well, perhaps a judgment for blasphemy from Yahweh. Others take it as defamatory judgment from Yahweh. So there is the chrisin, the next page. Hutoi dehos aloga soa gegine mena fusika eis halosin kai phthoran enhois ag nousin blasphemuntes ente phthora auton kai phteresontai. I might just pause it there. This is really a perhaps a comma would be nice there. So those ones, and we're going to look ahead a bit to see what it's going with, because we've got another clause in the middle here. So they are blaspheming in the things which they are ignorant. So they blaspheming perhaps in matters in which they do not understand, in which they are ignorant. Now the hose is used in the sense of like here, and it's a comparison. So it's like arloga zoa, this is neuter plural from zoion, meaning a beast or a wild beast. The physika is odd, it means physical, perhaps best translated as brute beasts. So it's something like an arloga, alpha privative plus this log, unreasoning. So like unreasoning brute beasts, having been born for hallosin, capture and destruction. Hallosin is a third declension feminine noun. The hal root is connected with that haliskamai, to take, and hallosin is used of capture, often used of taking a city in earlier Greek, but here it's capturing an animal. So it's something like unreasoning brute beasts, having been born for capture and destruction, they blaspheming in matters which they do not understand, and that's all that first clause, and then they will be destroyed. This is a future passive from phthero, bit of algradation, there's no theta because of the row. So they will, and they will also be destroyed, taking the chi, literally in their corruption or destruction. Some people take the phthora as translated as decadence. Well, that's possible, but the word, they're connected here, the roots are connected here, and connected with the phthora in the earlier bit. So just to do that bit again quickly, so like unreasoning brute beasts born for capture and destruction, they blaspheming in matters which they do not understand, they also will be destroyed by their, or perhaps corruption. Some say decadence. Others apparently seem to take this as having the sense of they will meet the same destruction as the beasts. Well, that's a secondary meaning here, but if our tone was the same, you'd expect it to fit in between the article and the noun, and you wouldn't have our tone. So I think it's, as I translated it, is probably the best. They will meet their destruction by their own corruption. Adikumenoi misthon adikias, he donan, he gumenoi tain en hemera trufane, spiloi kaimomoi en trufontes entais apartais auton, son u okumenoi humin. Again, I'll pause there. So this is a passive from adikio, being wronged. So it's something like they, perhaps almost they will be wronged as a reward for their wrongdoing. Hegumenoi, hegeomai can mean to lead or to think or to regard, and the latter meaning here. So it's regarding or thinking of pleasure, tain trufane en hamera. Trufe is a word meaning indulgence. There's a verb trufao, and I think we get en trufao in the next line here. This is an abstract noun. Means something like indulgence, pampering, that kind of idea. So regarding the pleasure, the indulgence, literally in a day. So it could be during the day, it could be used in the sense of regarding pleasure, daily indulgence, something like that, as spiloi, as blots, and momoi, and as blemishes. En trufontes, Now that's the verb connected with true feign. So it's reveling or indulging themselves in their deceits, from apate, first declension feminine, son euokumenoi. This verb I think only occurs here in the New Testament. It's very rare otherwise. It's only here in the New Testament and in Jude. Again, the connections between 2 Peter and Jude. The euoke, the noun, has the sense of a feast. So this is a participle here, feasting along with you. So just to do that a bit quickly, so being wronged, or perhaps they being wronged as a reward for their wrongdoing, regarding pleasure as, or perhaps regarding as pleasure, the indulgence, or the daily indulgence. So regarding their daily indulgence as pleasure, they are like blots and blemishes, indulging themselves, or perhaps reveling in their deceit, feasting along with you. Ophthalmus mus ekontes mestus, moi kalidos kai akatapaustus, hamatias, deliadzontes, psukas asterictus, cardian gegumnas menain, pleonexias ekontes kataras techna. Having eyes, mestus, full of, this is from moikalis, adultery, and akatapaustus, something like insatiable, I should say. It's alpha privative. The para root is to cease, so not ceasing, so hence insatiable sins. This is accusative here. This is a compound adjective, so it only 2 termination. So having eyes full of adultery and insatiable sins. This is after the ekontes. So the mestus takes a genitive, but this is not genitive. Deliadzontes, the noun form from delia, which is a bait, or a trap or enticement. You'll see the word also in Epistle of James. So it's enticing souls who are asterictus, which are unstable. So it's alpha privative. The verb is sterisdo, to put something in a stable position. So unstable. Having ekontes cardion, having a heart. Gegumnasmenain, this is a perfect passive participle from gumnasdo. Gumnasdo, it's connected with that idea of being naked. So you go to the gym, and you went to the gymnasium in ancient Greek, and they generally, the young men training there would have no clothes on, and hence you get this gumna verb. To make yourself naked means to go to the gymnasium. And then the verb itself, gumnasdo, means to train or to practice. So having a heart, having been trained in pleonexia, this is a genitive, the defining genitive really here. Pleonexia is greed. It's pleon plus the x from echo, so having more, so greed. And the katares, this is, I think, genitive here, children of curses. So we would say, well, perhaps children of the accursed, something like that. So just to redo that bit there, so from here, so baiting or enticing souls which are unstable, having a heart trained in greed, children of curses. So perhaps cursed children or children of the accursed. Katalepontes eutheon hodon eplanethe san ex akoluthe santes te hodo to Balaam to Bosor, hos misthon adicias agapesin, elenxen de esken ideas paranomias. Just pause there. So, having left behind from katalepo the straight path, hodos, of course, is the second declension feminine noun, so you've got a feminine adjective here, third declension. So having left behind the straight path, eplane thesan, this is an aorist passive, perhaps almost causative. They have been caused to wander, often just rendered as though it was active. They wandered. Ex akoluthe sente. So this again is so following, and the X I think just emphasizes it. So following completely in the way of Balaam, the son of, what here says Bosor. In the original story I think it's Beor. The story of Balaam's in Numbers chapter 22. So following in the path of Balaam, the son of Beor, or Bosor if you will, who loved the reward of that comes from unrighteousness, that comes from wrongdoing. So who loved, notice we get agapao here, interesting use of agapao. So who loved the reward that comes from wrongdoing, again defining genitive here, elenxen de esken ideas paranomias. So he had, from echo, he had the elenxin, this is the reproof. There is a verb elenco with a kappa here. It means to reprove somebody, it's a technical law court term really, to make an accusation against, and hence it means to reproof. It's often used in philosophy to sort of try out a particular theory to see where it leads and so on, and so-called elenchus. So he had reproof of his own paranomias, his own lawlessness. This is para plus the nom root, things are contrary to the law. So he had a reproof of his own lawlessness, a hypotsugion aphonon en anthropophone thinxamenu ekolosentaine to prophetu paraphronian. So the subject is this here, and hypotsugion is a beast of burden, something that you put under the tsuge, the yoke. And so it just comes to mean a beast of burden. So this was the ass. And it's aphanon, so mute or dumb. So a mute beast of burden. And then we get a neuter participle agreeing back with this, having spoken, from thingo, having spoken with, this is that use of en meaning with, so it's with the phone, the voice of a man, ekolosen, hindered, so prevented or stopped, so put a stop to, the paraphronian. Now this is an extremely rare word. I think it only occurs here in all of Greek, although the meanings, there's the word's similar to it. It means to be out of your mind, and hence an aberration or madness, insanity. So he put an end to the madness of the prophet. So just to do that bit again. So the story was, of course, that Balaam's ass suddenly took voice and told him to stop doing what he was doing. You'll have to look at the story in Numbers 22. So he had reproof of his own lawlessness. It's almost like when a mute or unspeaking beast of burden, speaking in the voice of a man, prevented or hindered or put a stop to the madness of the prophet. And that is the next section of chapter 2.